Madison Hale had always been adventurous. As a solo travel blogger with a modest but loyal following on Instagram and YouTube, she made a name for herself by exploring America's most remote and underappreciated destinations. In July 2019, she announced her most ambitious journey yet, a 12-week solo trip across the U.S., starting from her hometown of Eugene, Oregon, and ending somewhere near the Gulf of Mexico. Her plan was to document hidden trails, forgotten ghost towns, and scenic detours along the way. Her fans were excited and she was, too. This trip was supposed to be her breakthrough. Her car, a red 2015 Jeep Wrangler, was modified for long road trip, solar panels, sleeping platform, and backup satellite GPS included. Madison's first 2 weeks went smoothly. She posted daily, stunning photos of Oregon's coastal cliffs, quirky diners in Utah, even a spooky abandoned mining town in Arizona. Her final confirmed location was a vlog filmed outside El Paso, Texas. Dated August 18, 2019. In the video, she talked about feeling watched at a roadside gas station but brushed it off as nerves from being alone too long. Still, viewers later noted she looked uneasy, constantly glancing at something off camera. That night, she texted her sister a short message, heading toward Big Bend area tomorrow. Weak signal, but I'll check in if I can. It would be the last message anyone ever received from her. When she missed a scheduled video upload 2 days later, her followers were concerned. By day 5 of silence, her family reported her missing. The online community, many of whom had tracked her journey obsessively, immediately mobilized, combing through her posts, timestamps, and tagged locations for any clue. Authorities began their search along her projected route but were hindered by the vastness of the terrain. The area surrounding Big Bend National Park is remote, dry, and rugged. Cellular coverage is sparse. Surveillance footage from a general store in Presidio County appeared to show Madison purchasing snacks and water alone. But that was the last confirmed sighting. Her social media accounts remained frozen in time. Her most recent Instagram story showing a desert sunset with the caption, "Perfect silence out here." Almost a perfect. As days turned into weeks, the desert yielded no answers. No signs of struggle, no personal items scattered near trails. The only break came when a rancher discovered her Jeep parked under a cliffside ridge miles off the main road, dusty but intact. The keys were still in the ignition. Madison's camera gear, maps, and backpack were inside. The driver's seat was pulled back, as if someone much taller had been behind the wheel. But Madison, she was gone. It was a blistering afternoon in early September 2019. Nearly 3 weeks after Madison had last been heard from, when a local cattle rancher named Luis Calderon stumbled upon something strange while checking on his livestock, deep along a little-known service road near the edge of his property miles. From any marked highway, he spotted a red Jeep tucked between 2 rock outcroppings, half concealed by wind-blown mesquite branches. Dust had settled thick on the hood, and a single raven perched silently on the roof. Calderon later told reporters, "It was like the desert was trying to swallow it whole." Sheriff's deputies from Presidio County arrived within hours. The scene was eerily still. The Jeep was locked but undamaged. No broken glass, no signs of impact or a struggle outside. When they finally popped the door, they found Madison's belongings neatly arranged, a GoPro still in its case, a road atlas marked with red ink, her wallet tucked into the passenger side glove compartment. A half-eaten protein bar and a full water bottle rested in the cuff holder. Nothing suggested panic or haste, if anything. It looked like she might return at any moment. But the most baffling detail was the driver's seat. According to her DMV records, Madison stood just over 5 feet 3. The seat, however, had been pushed back several notches farther than she could have comfortably driven. This, coupled with faint boot prints, larger than Madison's known shoe size, near the rear tires, introduced an unsettling possibility. Someone else may have been inside the vehicle after her disappearance. Forensics found no fingerprints of value, and no tire tracks could be salvaged in the hardened desert dust. Drones were deployed to scan the surrounding terrain. The ridge overlooked a deep ravine that funneled into a dry creek bed, a treacherous area where hikers could easily vanish. But despite scouring several square miles, search teams found no clothing, footprints, or drag marks. Cadaver dogs were brought in but alerted to nothing. Not even a scrap of torn fabric or a shoe out of place. It was as though Madison had driven to this spot, left her car, and simply ceased to exist. Investigators began to question, had she fallen victim to the landscape or to something far more sinister? Inside the Jeep's storage compartment, authorities found a travel log she had been keeping by hand. The last entry, dated 2 days before her final text message, was brief and cryptic. Felt strange energy today. Like I'm being pulled somewhere I shouldn't go. That single line would haunt everyone involved in the case. Law enforcement, her family, and especially the growing number of online followers who had become obsessed with her vanishing. If Madison had willingly driven to this isolated cliffside, what had she found there? Or more chillingly, who had found her? It wasn't until Madison's belongings were catalogued and reviewed in the evidence locker that investigators stumbled across something deeply unsettling: a memory card tucked inside a zipped pouch within her camera bag. It had somehow gone unnoticed during the initial sweep of her Jeep. When the tech team loaded the files, they found dozens of video clips, some familiar travel footage, others incomplete or raw, but the very last file stood out. Titled, "Only Final Thoughts, Move," the video had no timestamp and was clearly filmed in low light. What they saw would change the tone of the investigation entirely. The footage opens with Madison seated in the back of her Jeep, facing the camera. Her tone is tense, her expression distracted. She seems unusually paranoid, repeatedly looking over her shoulder. "Something's not right out here," she says, her voice barely above a whisper. "I've seen the same white pickup truck 3 times now, once yesterday, near the old gas station, again this morning, outside the canyon trailhead, and just now, parked down the road for over an hour." She swallows hard and forces a nervous laugh. "Maybe it's nothing. Maybe I'm just freaking myself out." But as the video continues, her demeanor shifts. She stops smiling. At one point, she leans closer to the lens and lowers her voice. "Whoever's in that truck, they're not just passing through. They're watching me. I don't know what they want." There's a long pause. A sudden noise, maybe a door slamming or a car shifting gears, startles her. The camera shakes violently as she fumbles to shut it off. But before the clip ends, a single frame catches something in the background: a faint pair of headlights slowly approaching from the darkness. Authorities initially dismissed the video as stress-induced paranoia. Solo travelers often experience heightened anxiety, especially in remote, desolate areas. But others weren't so sure. Madison had a reputation for being cautious and level-headed. Her followers online began dissecting the clip frame by frame, uploading theories and side-by-side comparisons of truck models. Some claimed to spot a figure standing just beyond the headlights, but the image was too grainy to be confirmed. The mysterious truck quickly became a central thread in the online manhunt that followed. Investigators tried to trace vehicles matching the vague description: a white pickup with possible front-end damage, but it was a needle in a haystack. No license plate was visible. No driver had been reported near the area. The white truck, like Madison herself, seemed to vanish into thin air. What troubled detectives most was not just what the video revealed, but what it implied. Madison knew she was in danger, and she tried to warn someone. The question that lingered hauntingly was, did she run from something, or did she try to confront it? When word of Madison Hale's disappearance hit mainstream media, her story didn't just fade into a police file, it went viral. Reddit, Threads, YouTube channels, and TikTok accounts dedicated to missing persons began analyzing every fragment of her final trip. Within weeks, a digital army of amateur sleuths had formed, combing through Madison's posts, matching timestamps with terrain maps, and even using satellite imagery to chart her potential routes. What made Madison's case particularly haunting was the amount of content she left behind: logs, photos, audio clips, and journal entries, breadcrumbs, scattered across the internet. One of the first theories to gain traction was that Madison had been abducted by someone she crossed paths with on the road, possibly the driver of the white pickup she mentioned in her final vlog. Online detectives dug up missing persons reports, local crime bulletins, and truck owner registries across Texas and New Mexico. Several users claimed to have spotted similar vehicles in the background of her older travel clips, suggesting the man may have been following her long before she noticed. Others went further, accusing local ranchers or off-grid communities of involvement, people who knew how to make someone disappear in the vast desert. Another theory took a darker, more conspiratorial turn. Some internet users believed Madison had stumbled upon something she wasn't supposed to see: illegal trafficking routes, drug cartel activity, or even military testing zones hidden in the remote Southwest. They pointed to the eerie silence surrounding her vehicle's location: no prints, no camera footage, and no scent trails. They questioned why her GPS logs were missing from her satellite tracker and how Her final video had no geotag. To them, the evidence didn't point to a lone killer or an accident, it pointed to a cover-up. Then there were the more spiritual and paranormal believers. A niche corner of the web suggested that Madison had crossed into something not entirely human. Her mention of strange energy in her travel journal fueled ghost town legends, desert myths, and Navajo skinwalker stories. Viewers dissected her last video for signs of supernatural interference, distorted audio, flickering shadows, blurred shapes in the distance. Some even claimed to hear whispering in the background of her desert clips when played at half speed. Whether they believed it or not, viewers couldn't deny the story's chilling atmosphere. Even hikers who visited the area, where her Jeep was found, came back with unsettling reports. A pair of vloggers claimed to hear distant screaming while camping near the ridge, but when they searched, they found nothing but scorched brush and a flattened tent frame half buried in the sand. Another woman posted that her dog refused to go near the exact cliff where Madison's Jeep had been found, whimpering and retreating without explanation. Slowly, the case transformed from a missing persons investigation into a full-blown internet mystery, one where facts blurred with speculation. And the deeper people searched, the stranger the story became. Nearly 6 years had passed. By 2025, Madison Hale's disappearance had become a cold case, one of hundreds, archived in the dusty backroom files of Texas law enforcement. Her name still lingered in online forums and YouTube deep dives, but public interest had begun to fade. That is, until January 12, at precisely 3:19 a.m. The Eagle Pass Police Department received a single phone call from a blocked number. The voice was male, distorted through a voice changer or burner app. The message was short, emotionless, and terrifying. "Check the river. Look for the box." Then the call ended. At first, the message was dismissed as a prank, one of many that routinely targeted high-profile cold cases. But something about this voice, the precise tone, the phrasing, it caught the attention of a seasoned detective named Marisol Reyes. Reyes had followed Madison's case for years, even after it was unofficially shelved. She ordered a check of the area mentioned in the call, the Rio Grande, near a bend in the river southwest of town, a location far from where Madison's vehicle had been found, and far from any trail she was believed to have taken. The area was dangerous, murky, fast-moving currents, with sharp rock outcroppings and heavy vegetation along the banks. Local dive teams were dispatched with low expectations. But within hours, a diver surfaced, shouting for backup. Wedged beneath a massive driftwood tangle, held in place by sand and sediment, was a rusted steel box wrapped in chain. It was heavy, far heavier than expected, and had no identifying markings except a partially faded M scratched into one side. The padlock's sealing, it was corroded, but still intact. For a moment, everyone on site went silent. Something about the box felt wrong. When the lock was finally cracked open at a secure facility later that evening, what was inside stunned even the most hardened officers. Human remains, clearly aged and partially decomposed, were found wrapped in what appeared to be an old quilt. Clutched in the fabric was a delicate silver locket with the initials MH engraved on the back. Alongside the remains sat a black GoPro camera, still dry inside its waterproof casing, despite years submerged. Investigators stared in disbelief. Had Madison's killer filmed something? Or had Madison herself recorded footage that no one was ever meant to find? News of the discovery spread like wildfire. Reporters descended on Eagle Pass. Theories flared up once again online, louder than ever. Who left the tip? Why now, after nearly 6 years of silence? Was it a guilty conscience, or a calculated taunt? The timing seemed too deliberate. Even more disturbing, why was the box found so far from where her Jeep had been abandoned? Had she been moved, held somewhere, or was the entire original location a diversion? One thing was now certain. The case was no longer cold, and whatever truth lay ahead was going to be darker than anyone imagined. The box was unlike anything investigators had ever recovered in a missing persons case. Roughly the size of a carry-on suitcase, it was forged from steel thick enough to resist corrosion, yet still bore deep scratches, dents, and signs of force, as though someone had tried to destroy or pry it open before sealing it shut. Its surface was scorched in one corner, and inside the chains wrapped tightly around it. Traces of river moss and sand hinted at how long it had been buried beneath the Rio Grande. It had clearly been placed there with great effort and great intention. Inside, the discovery was grim. The remains, partially intact skeletal fragments, were wrapped in what looked like an old handmade quilt. faded and stained beyond recognition. Alongside the bones were a few hauntingly personal items: a cracked hairbrush with strands of long, reddish-blonde hair still tangled in its bristles, a worn leather notebook too water-damaged to read, and a delicate silver locket, the clasp still functional. Inside the locket were two tiny photos, one of Madison smiling in front of a waterfall, and the other of a young girl, possibly a niece or cousin. These items, investigators confirmed, all belonged to Madison Hale, but it was the GoPro, still dry inside its waterproof housing, that truly shifted the tone of the case. Forensic specialists handled it with extreme care. After hours of patient extraction, they managed to recover two video files, both timestamped from late August 2019, just days after Madison had last contacted her sister. The first was corrupted, skipping with bursts of static. But the second was intact. What it showed was disturbing. Madison, seated on the floor of a small windowless room, her hands bound and her voice cracking as she spoke directly to the camera. She appeared dirty, tired, and terrified. Behind her, a wooden wall was etched with strange symbols, possibly carved with a knife. "If anyone sees this," she says at the beginning, "please tell my family I didn't give up." Her voice shakes as she mentions the same white truck, saying she recognized the driver from a gas station 2 states earlier. "He followed me for days," she whispers, "and then he finally got me when I stopped to sleep near the cliffs." The most chilling moment comes at the end of the clip, as Madison looks past the camera and gasps. A tall, shadowy figure steps into the edge of the frame, and then the video abruptly cuts off. Facial recognition software failed to identify the man. The figure was mostly blurred, possibly intentional, as if the camera had been manipulated or shielded. Only a few details stood out: a black hoodie with a symbol across the chest, possibly military or paramilitary in design, and a scar across the left side of his jawline. Law enforcement issued a renewed "Bolo be on the lookout" alert nationwide. Meanwhile, FBI profilers suggested that Madison may have been held captive for several days or even weeks before she was killed and her body sealed inside the box. But if that was the case, where had she been kept? And why did her killer record her final moments? Despite the monumental breakthrough of the metal box and the horrifying footage it contained, law enforcement still had more questions than answers. The figure caught on Madison's GoPro remained unidentified. Leads poured in from across the country, tipsters claiming to recognize the scarred man or the hoodie he wore, but none panned out. The hoodie's symbol, a crude triangle with a vertical slash through it, didn't match any known organization, military unit, or brand. Investigators even consulted occult specialists, worried the carvings in the wall behind Madison were ritualistic. But their meaning remains undetermined. The FBI officially reopened the case, now treating it as a federal abduction and homicide. They retraced old evidence with new eyes, sending digital forensics experts through her online footprint and geolocation data. Again, a troubling discovery surfaced: parts of Madison's GPS history from the final 48 hours had been manually deleted. Whoever took her had technical knowledge. They hadn't just stumbled upon her in the dark, they had tracked her movements, wiped her trail, and planned what they were going to do with her. This wasn't random. It was organized, methodical, maybe even repeated. Meanwhile, the online community exploded once more. Internet sleuths unearthed stories of other women who had vanished near border towns, solo travelers, hikers, even truck stop workers. Most of these cases had gone cold too, but now people were connecting dots, mapping types and comparing physical descriptions. A disturbing theory began to emerge. What if Madison's killer wasn't a lone predator, but part of a network? Something larger, hidden in plain sight. A group that knew the terrain, used backroads, and preyed specifically on people no one would miss for a few days. A pattern was forming, but no one could prove it. Her family, while heartbroken by the confirmation of her death, became publicly vocal in demanding answers. Madison's sister Alina appeared on several national news programs holding the silver locket recovered from the box. "Whoever did this wanted us to find her eventually," she said during a tearful interview. Why wait 6 years? Why leave clues now? That question echoed through the minds of everyone following the case. The tipster's voice had never been identified. No second call followed. Was it a conscience breaking after years of silence? Or was it someone playing a twisted game, watching the chaos unfold from afar? One thing was certain: even in death, Madison Hale wasn't at peace. Her story had become a symbol of something much bigger, something terrifying that lurked just beneath the surface of everyday life. Her face haunted missing persons billboards, her name sparked debate in forums and investigative podcasts. And her final video continued to circulate, pixelated and horrifying. But the deeper authorities and the public dug, the murkier it became. Something was still out, there's something unfinished. And everyone watching knew. This mystery wasn't over. Not by a long shot. Madison Hale set out to chase freedom, to explore the vast open landscapes of America. But somewhere between the deserts and highways, she vanished into a nightmare no one could have imagined. Even now, with bones recovered, footage revealed, and questions reopened, the truth still hides in the shadows. Who is the man in the video? Why return her body 6 years later? And how many others might still be out there unfound, unheard, unseen? This wasn't just a disappearance, it was a message. But from who? And why? Some say the river gave up its secret, but others believe it only gave us a glimpse of something much darker, still waiting beneath the surface. Until the whole truth is exposed. Madison's story isn't over.
If you liked this video, don't forget to hit that like button, share it with your friends, and drop your thoughts in the comments below. Most importantly, subscribe and hit the bell icon so the next secret finds you first.